Hey everyone, I'm John Luke and I'm here with Michael Higham. Michael, you got to see a live demo and presentation for Forza Motorsport. So what's new?
Let me start with kind of the big picture that they're trying to build with this new Forza Motorsport. The thing that they emphasized was what's called the Builder's Cup. And what's interesting here is that traditionally in racing games that have a career mode, you race and earn money to either buy parts or buy new cars. So what they're trying to do with this game is, well, they kept calling it a car PG, which kind of does make sense, to be honest, because instead of earning money, you earn what's called car points, and you spend car points like their XP to build out your car. So what you can always do is respec, and what that does in practice is that instead of racing for like an extra $1,000, whatever, so I can upgrade my suspension and then take it out to the track and racing a bunch of times so I can upgrade my exhaust or get it a different intake or whatever. Instead, it feels like here's a pool of XP that you can use to build your car however you want. And respecing, you can get those car points back by taking out those parts. So you're mixing and matching different parts depending on the races that you're doing with your car. So I think it's a really smart system because I've played a lot of racing sims, a lot of career modes over time, and I've kind of gotten tired of that formula of like just earning money or whatever. So what this lets me do is that, okay, I have a car and maybe I'm taking it into a cup or a race where there's a lot more cornering and I need to come out of the corner faster. So and if I just did a race where there's a lot more straightaways, I can invest a lot in engine upgrades so I can hit the straightaways faster in a particular race. I go into one that's a little bit more complex with sharper turns. I can take those parts back, get my car points back, and then invest in maybe better suspension, better tires, things like that. So I think the way they framed it is they want you to build a better car rather than buy better cars.
Okay.
So I think that's one of the more important aspects to their career mode. They mentioned that there's going to be a bunch of other modes in Forza Motorsport. They weren't quite ready to talk about it, so they're really emphasizing and highlighting this Builder's Cup mode.
The other thing that you mentioned was they are going big on AI and how they're going to use that to enhance the racing experience.
Yeah. Listen, I'm not a mathematician. I'm not a computer scientist, but I did ask about AI because I think that's very important for a racing game. And this, when I mentioned the kind of the monotony of sim racing in the past, of the formula of buying parts and stuff like that. Another aspect to the monotony of previous racing sims I felt was that the AI became predictable, where some games have, or a lot of racing games have rubber banding, to where if they're too far behind, they're going to catch up because the game pushes them through so you can keep the race tight and keep it interesting. And the same thing if you fall behind. But of course, that's not realistic, right? That doesn't happen in real life. So they've kind of retooled their machine learning AI for the individual cars to behave a lot more like professional racing drivers. And one of the ways in which that manifests is they're much more aware of your position on the track. And the way they framed it is that instead of when the AI drivers are if they're messing up or falling behind, instead of them being sloppy, they are timid. So they're a lot more hesitant to drive aggressively. So one way this can happen is that if you're taking a turn and the AI recognizes that you're in their driving line, they're not going to just slam into you because you're in their driving line. Professional racers don't do that. So the AI is built in a way to where it's adaptive and understands what you're doing and your position. And then instead of them being sloppy and maybe ramming into you as you're trying to overtake, what they would do is they would slow down. They would be more timid, and that would be your opportunity to overtake them. Because I asked about F1 because I follow F1 very closely. And I asked them, some drivers are sloppy and sometimes they do make mistakes, and those things will happen. They're not just going to straight up ram into you because they're in your way.
Yeah.
So that makes the AI a lot smarter. And at least from what they've told me is that the AI on the cars are all there's no tricks that they do like rubber banding in there. That's all everything that the AI does is what another player it would be capable of doing. So they don't juice them because they're like super far behind. So it makes for a much more realistic driving experience. And I think that's important for racing sims today. So I want to see, of course, I didn't get hands-on. So as someone who's played a lot of racing sims, I would love to get hands-on to see how that actually flows in a race.
Another thing you said they've been changing is the way physics work.
Yes. Every racing sim wants to upgrade their physics model.
Yeah.
Cars, we want them to handle much more realistically, and those things are very complex. There's a whole bunch of mathematical formulas and tables and data sets that I'm not going to get involved in because I don't actually know a lot of that stuff. But like I said, I do play these games, and I could see the ways in which those things change. So like racing simulations are constantly evolving, and they've said that they can upgrade or update their physics model as time goes on with this game. And because they've also said that their physics model and their sim model is more complex than some professional racing teams. So again, I mentioned F1 because F1 teams build their own racing sims for their drivers to test on.
Right.
And we brought up like McLaren. It's like no slander to the McLaren F1 team, but they said that like they've been working on these games for so long that an F1 team aren't necessarily game developers who don't have like 20 years of history of building racing sims. So they mentioned that their physics model is getting better and more realistic, and being able to build a model and the cars can react more realistically to track conditions, tire wear, and things like that. Those are the things you expect out of a new racing sim, of course. But you don't. I just wanted to make sure and check with them. It's like, yeah. If I played a lot of Forza Motorsport 7. Are you working on this aspect? Of course, the answer is yes. I'm excited for Forza Motorsport. I know a lot of Horizon games came out, and I love the Horizon games, and I play a lot of Gran Turismo 7 when it came out, and I still have room in my heart for a good racing sim. So I am genuinely excited for this game. And some people might look at it and think, oh well, it's another track racing sim, but I'm a sicko for those kinds of things. And for Xbox, Forza's been one of their staples. So if they're gonna put a lot of eggs into that basket, I would like to see the fruits of that labor come to fruition. And I'm excited to play around in that Builders Cup and see how things have changed.
Well, thank you very much for your insight, Michael. And I think you and all the other racing sickos will have a chance to check out the game for themselves on October 10th. And for all things Forza, stay here at GameSpot.